We thought we were mapping a black hole. We didn't realize it was mapping us. The inky void outside the viewport was a lie. Not empty, not silent, but a yawning chasm of indifference that swallowed light and sound and sanity whole. My name is Captain Rostova, and I am alone. The last living soul on the Quran, adrift in the desolate currents beyond the known universe, a monument to human hubris and a testament to the things that lurk in the dark. It began, as all such follies do, with a mission, a mapping expedition to a newly discovered singularity, designated Event Horizon Prime. A black hole, yes, but one unlike we'd ever encountered. Its gravitational pull defied models. Its energy signature pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, and its very existence warped the celestial tapestry around it. It was a cosmic anomaly, a scientific goldmine, and our ticket to glory. Or so we thought. There were 5 of us. Commander Thorne, our stoic and brilliant astrophysicist whose life was dedicated to unraveling the universe's secrets. Dr. Eris Thorne, his younger sister. Our xenobotanist, a woman of boundless curiosity and an infectious laugh. Lieutenant Valerius, our no-nonsense pilot, whose hands could make the Quran dance through asteroid fields. Sergeant Jian Li, our comms and engineering specialist, a quiet and methodical man whose calm demeanor was a balm in stressful situations. And me, Captain Rostova, the one tasked with bringing us all back. We were the best, hand-picked for our resilience, our intelligence, and our shared hunger for the unknown. We were also, unknowingly, lambs to the slaughter. The journey was long, a tedious dance through cold, dead space. Weeks bled into months. The hum of the engines, the artificial gravity, the recycled air, they became the rhythm of our lives. We shared meals, played card games, debated the philosophical implications of a universe without end. We were a family, bound by the fragile threads of shared purpose and the vast emptiness surrounding us. The dread, when it finally began to manifest, was subtle, insidious, like a frost creeping across a window pane. Event 1. The whispers in the dark. The first sign was the whispers. Not audible voices, not at first, but a phantom echo in the back of my mind, a low thrum, a vibration that resonated deep within my bones, like a distant, distorted song. I dismissed it as space fatigue, a common affliction for long-haul crews, the mind playing tricks in the absence of external stimuli. Others felt it too, though. Anyone else hearing that thrum? Jian asked one evening, his usually steady hands fumbling with the circuit board. He rarely broke his focus, and his unease was a red flag. Thought it was just me, Valerius grunted from the pilot's console, his eyes narrowed, scanning the diagnostics. Like a low-frequency hum, but it's not coming from the ship's systems. Commander Thorne, ever the rationalist, scoffed. Probably just your mind's manufacturing input. We're in deep space, people, and there's nothing out here but us and the vacuum. Eris, however, looked thoughtful. It feels old, she murmured, her gaze fixed on the endless stars outside, like something very, very ancient is singing to itself. The whispers intensified as we approached Event Horizon Prime. They no longer felt like a hum, but like distinct, though unintelligible syllables brushing against the edges of our perception. It was like trying to hear a conversation through a thick wall, only the wall was the fabric of reality itself. My dreams became a swirling vortex of formless shadows and guttural sounds that clawed at the edges of my sanity. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs, the phantom whispers still echoing in the silence of my quarters. I started taking sedatives, anything to escape the nightly torment, but even in drugged sleep, the whispers persisted. The most disturbing aspect was not the sound itself, but the growing feeling that accompanied it, a profound, almost paralyzing sense of insignificance. It was as if the universe was not merely vast, but actively indifferent, and we, with our tiny ship and our grand ambitions, were less than specks of dust. This feeling, more than the whispers, was the true harbinger of what was to come. It was the realization that our existence, our very lives, meant absolutely nothing to whatever was out there. We finally reached Event Horizon Prime, a colossal maw of distorted space-time, its gravitational pull tugging at the Quran like an invisible hand. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, a cosmic vortex of shimmering light and profound darkness. Our instruments went wild, recording data that defied every known law of physics. Commander Thorne was ecstatic, a childlike wonder in his eyes as he stared at the monitors. Eris, though, seemed quieter, her usual exuberance replaced by a solemn reverence. It was during our initial scans that the whispers coalesced. Momentarily, for a fleeting second, I heard a word, clear as day, spoken not in my mind but seemingly from the very fabric of space around us. It was a name, not a human name, a sound that twisted my tongue and resonated with an ancient, forgotten power. I almost cried out, but the moment passed, leaving behind only the lingering echo of dread. I looked at the others, but their faces were impassive, focused on their tasks. Did they hear it too? Or was I finally losing my mind? Event 2. The Shifting Shadows. The anomaly wasn't just the black hole itself, but what appeared to be orbiting it. No asteroids, no planets, but vast, nebulous clouds of something that absorbed light, making them appear as shifting shadows against the backdrop of the Singularity's accretion disk. Our long-range sensors struggled to penetrate them, returning only garbled data. Commander Thorne theorized they were exotic matter, perhaps dark matter concentrations, but even his explanations felt flimsy in the face of their sheer alienness. They're not stable, Valerius reported, his voice tight with concern as he tried to plot a safe trajectory. They're moving in ways that defy orbital mechanics. It's like they have their own will. Jian, who was monitoring the power fluctuations, added, "They're draining our energy. Not significantly, but a constant, low-level drain. Like they're siphoning something off us." The whispers became constant now, a maddening chorus of gibberish that grated on my nerves. I found myself snapping at the crew, my patience wearing thin. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. I'd wander the ship's corridors clutching a mug of synth coffee, my eyes wide and bloodshot, searching for answers in the empty spaces between the bulkheads. Then the shadows started responding, not to our presence, but to our thoughts, our fears. I would think of something, a fleeting image of home, a memory of laughter, and the shadows on the view screen would subtly shift, forming fleeting, almost imperceptible patterns that mirrored my internal state. It was a horrifying intimacy, a feeling of being watched, not by eyes, but by something far more vast and unknowable. One morning, Eris found me in the observation deck, staring out at the swirling shadows. Her face was pale, her usual spark dimmed. "Captain," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I think they're alive." I turned to her, my heart a lead weight in my chest. "What are you talking about, Eris?" "The bio readings. They're faint, almost undetectable, but there's something. Not organic in any way we understand, but there's a pattern, a rhythm. It's like a colossal living network, and it's interacting with her neural pathways. Her eyes, usually so vibrant, were wide with a mixture of terror and morbid fascination. That's why we're hearing whispers, Captain. They're communicating with us, or trying to. Commander Thorne dismissed her theories as stress-induced paranoia, but even he seemed less certain now. His brow perpetually furrowed. He became more withdrawn, spending hours alone in his lab, furiously inputting data, his face illuminated by the flickering screens. He was searching for a rational explanation, anything to anchor himself in a reality that was rapidly slipping away. The shadows grew bolder. They began to press against the Quran's shields, causing intermittent power fluctuations that sent shivers down our spines. The ship would groan and creak, as if a titanic hand were squeezing it. The temperature inside fluctuated wildly, from icy cold to sweltering heat, regardless of the climate controls. Our food replicators malfunctioned, producing grotesque, inedible slop. Our once orderly ship was slowly descending into a chaotic, unsettling nightmare. One night, I woke up to a piercing scream. It was Jian. We found him in the engineering bay, huddled in a corner, his eyes wide with unadulterated terror, pointing a trembling finger at the main power conduit. The conduit, a thick bundle of wires and pipes, was covered in a grotesque, pulsing growth. It looked like a fungal infection, but it moved with an organic, almost deliberate slithering. It was black, iridescent, and seemed to hum with the same low thrum we'd been hearing. It's inside the ship, Jian gasped, his voice cracking. It came from the shadows. It's absorbing the energy. Commander Thorne, ever the scientist as usual, approached it cautiously. He extended a gloved hand, but before he could touch it, the growth recoiled, pulsing violently, and then receded into the conduit, leaving behind only a faint, sickly residue. The incident terrified us, shaking our belief that we were safe within the confines of our vessel. The unknown was not just outside, it was beginning to infest our sanctuary. Event 3. The mind-breaking visions. The infestation spread. Small patches of the black pulsating growth appeared on the walls, on the equipment, even on our clothes. It was slow, almost imperceptible, but relentlessly expanding. It didn't seem to be harming anything, just existing, but its presence was a constant, chilling reminder of the alien intelligence that had breached our defenses. Then came the visions. They began gently, fleeting glimpses of impossible geometry, impossible colors, things that defied the very laws of perception. They weren't dreams, they were lucid, waking nightmares, superimposed onto our reality. I'd see a wall melt into a kaleidoscope of screaming faces, or the floor writhe with unseen tentacles, only for it to snap back to normal a second later. Valerius was the first to truly break. We found him in the cockpit, his face contorted in a silent scream, his hands clamped over his ears. His eyes were wide, staring at something only he could see. He mumbled incoherently about the patterns and the voices from beyond the veil. He thrashed and writhed, trying to claw at his own eyes, begging us to make it stop. We had to sedate him, strap him into a medical cot. He never recovered, his mind irretrievably shattered. He would simply lie there, staring blankly, occasionally mumbling about the Great Eye and the Devourer of Stars. Eris, despite her scientific curiosity, was deeply affected. She started drawing, sketching feverishly in her notebook, Her drawings were abstract, terrifying representations of the shadows, the black hole, and the impossible geometry she was seeing. They were beautiful in their horror, depicting entities that were far more concept than form, their vastness enough to crush the soul. She was seeing something that transcended our understanding. She confided in me that the whispers were no longer just sounds, but images, concepts, knowledge being forced into her mind. It was overwhelming, she said, like trying to drink from an ocean through a straw. Commander Thorne, in his desperate search for a rational explanation, became obsessed with the black hole itself. He theorized that the singularity wasn't just a gravitational anomaly, but a doorway, a tear in the fabric of reality through which something was bleeding into our universe. He spent hours muttering to himself, scribbling equations that looked less like science and more like mad ravings. He believed that the growths were not just absorbing energy, but information, and that the visions were a byproduct of this alien data being force-fed into our brains. He started talking about the true nature of existence and the cosmic architects. He was losing himself in the very mysteries he sought to unravel. My own visions were the most terrifying. I saw the Quran not as a ship, but as a tiny, fragile shell, floating in an infinite ocean of consciousness. And in that ocean, there were things that were not born but existed, things that predated time and space, entities of such immense power and scale that our entire galaxy was but a fleeting spark in their cosmic dance. They were not malevolent, not evil, but utterly, terrifyingly indifferent. We were less than ants to them. Our struggles, our fears, our very existence, beneath their notice. The whispers now formed coherent sentences, not in any language I knew, but in a primordial tongue that resonated with a terrible truth. They spoke of the futility of life, the illusion of free will, and the ultimate, inescapable oblivion that awaited all things. One day, I walked into the mess hall to find Commander Thorne sitting at a table, meticulously carving symbols into his arm with a data stylus. They were the same impossible symbols Eris had been drawing, glowing faintly with an internal light. His eyes, when he looked up at me, were not his own. They were black, depthless pools, reflecting the swirling shadows outside. "Captain," he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "It's clearer now. The truth. We are but reflections, shadows dancing on a cosmic stage, and the audience, they are waking." He then plunged the stylus into his own eye, a silent, sickening pop. He didn't even flinch, he just sat there, the light slowly fading from his remaining eye. A faint, unsettling smile on his lips, his mind unable to bear the weight of the cosmic truth, had finally shattered. Event 4. The Manifestation. With Thorne gone, the last vestige of rational thought on the Quran vanished. Eris became almost catatonic, her drawings filling every available surface, transforming the ship into a gallery of cosmic horror. Jian moved like a ghost, mechanically performing his duties, but his eyes held the same vacant dread as Valerius. I was the last one clinging to sanity, a frayed thread in a tapestry of madness. The black growth was everywhere now, pulsing and thrumming, forming intricate alien patterns on the walls. It was warm to the touch and it seemed to breathe, a slow, deliberate expansion that made the ship feel less like a vessel and more like a living, festering organism. The air grew heavy, thick with a metallic, sweet scent that made my stomach churn. Then it started to manifest. Not the shadows, not even the whispers, but something solid, something tangible, emerging from the growths. It began with subtle distortions in the air, shimmering heat hazes that moved with an unnatural fluidity. Then the outlines began to form. They were impossible shapes, non-Euclidean geometries that defied visual perception. Like trying to visualize a four-dimensional object in 3 dimensions, my brain simply couldn't process what it was seeing. The first full manifestation was in the engine room. I heard Jian's guttural scream and raced there, my pulse thundering in my ears. He was pinned against the bulkhead, his body contorted at an unnatural angle. Emerging from a massive patch of the black growth on the wall was an appendage. It was long, whip-like, yet also seemed to fold in on itself, its surface shifting with iridescent colors that made my eyes ache. It wasn't a tentacle, not exactly. It was more like a constantly reconfiguring limb of pure living geometry. It had no discernible joints, no muscle, just a terrible fluid grace. It was wrapped around Jian's torso, squeezing slowly, relentlessly. Jian's eyes met mine, filled with a primal terror and then something else, a fleeting moment of clarity, a silent plea for release. I raised my plasma rifle, my hands shaking so violently I could barely aim. I fired. The plasma bolt hit the appendage, but instead of burning or shattering, it simply absorbed the energy, the iridescent surface shimmering brighter for a moment before returning to its original hue. The appendage tightened its grip, and with a sickening crunch, Jian's chest imploded. The creature then retracted, melting back into the black growth on the wall, leaving behind only the grotesque remains of my crewman. I stood there, gasping for air, the metallic scent now overpowering, the whispers roaring in my ears clearer than ever. They were not words anymore, but a symphony of cosmic agony, a chorus of despair from a million shattered minds. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat, and I ran. I ran until I collapsed in the common area, surrounded by Eris's terrible drawings. The ship was no longer safe. It was a tomb, and I was trapped inside with a waking nightmare. The manifestations became more frequent, more audacious. They were not attacking us with malice, not in the human sense. They were simply experiencing us, like curious children prodding at an ant farm. They would emerge from the walls, from the floor, from the very air itself. Vast, incomprehensible forms that moved with a languid, terrible beauty. They were made of the same shifting, iridescent matter as the growth, and their mere presence warped the air, causing the ship's structure to groan and warp. I saw them feed on the ship's energy, the lights flickering, the systems dying one by one. I saw them approach Valerius, who still lay strapped to his cot, and simply observe him. Their non-Euclidean forms would hover over him, pulsing with an inner light. And I could swear I saw his eyes widen further, if that were even possible, before they became utterly vacant, devoid of even the spark of madness. They didn't touch him, not physically, but they seemed to drain something from him, something vital, leaving behind only an empty shell. Eris was next. She was in her lab, surrounded by her chilling artwork, humming a tuneless, mournful song. A manifestation larger than any I'd seen formed behind her. It was a colossal shifting spire of impossible angles, its surface a swirling vortex of colors that would drive any sane person to immediate insanity. It extended a tendril, not to harm her but to gently touch her forehead. Eris looked up, not with fear, but with a terrible, serene understanding. "I see it now, Captain," she whispered, her voice surprisingly calm. "The song, the truth, it's beautiful." And then she simply dissolved, not violently, and not with blood or gore, but as if her very atoms unraveled, becoming one with the light-absorbing form. She simply ceased to be, absorbed into the entity, her essence joining the cosmic choir of whispers. There was no trace of her left, only the faint scent of ozone and the lingering echo of her last words. I was alone. Utterly, terrifyingly alone. The Quran was dead, the engines silent, the lights mostly out, powered only by emergency reserves. The black growth covered almost every surface, pulsating with a sickly internal glow. The air was thick with the sweet metallic scent, and the whispers were a constant, deafening roar in my mind. I sit here now in the derelict command center, the only place where the growth hasn't fully encroached. The main view screen, flickering erratically, shows Event Horizon Prime, still there, still a colossal maw. But now, shifting shadows around it are even more pronounced, forming intricate, impossible patterns. They are dancing, a silent cosmic ballet orchestrated by the entities that now infest my ship. I have no idea how long it's been. Days? Weeks? Time has really lost all meaning. The emergency rations are almost gone. The water purifier is failing. Soon, there will be nothing left. And yet, I don't fear death. What is death to a being that has seen the true face of the universe? The whispers are clearer now. The concepts they impart almost understandable. They speak of ancient things, of a time before time, of consciousness that spans galaxies, of realities that stacked upon realities. They tell me that this black hole is not a grave, but a womb, a birthplace for entities beyond our comprehension, and we, the crew of the Quran, were simply the unwitting midwives, our very presence, our fears, our thoughts, acting as a catalyst for their emergence. My hand trembles as I raise the comm unit to my lips. It's useless, I know. No one is out here. No one will ever hear me. But I must speak, if only to record the final testament of humanity's folly. This is Captain Rostova of the Quran. I whisper, my voice hoarse, cracking. Mission logs indicate complete failure. All crew lost. Ship compromised by something beyond comprehension. We found it. We found the truth. And the truth is not meant for us. I lower the comms unit, the clicking sound echoing in the oppressive silence. A low thrum, the same thrum that started all of this, resonates from the floor beneath my feet. The black growth on the bulkhead opposite me shimmers, and a new form begins to emerge. It is larger than the others, more complex, its shifting geometry a torment to my eyes. It fills the small space, its presence overwhelming. It is magnificent, terrifying, and utterly, profoundly indifferent. It extends a shimmering tendril, not towards me, but towards the comms unit, a silent curiosity in its impossible movements. I don't resist. What's the point? My reality, as I once knew it, is gone. It was always a fragile illusion, a construct we built to shield ourselves from the terrifying, beautiful truth. Reality is your creation, not something you experience. A voice, not my own, but echoing the whispers of the entities, resonates within my skull. It's a truth I wrote down, a truth I believed, but now it holds a terrifying new meaning. My creation, my reality, is crumbling, and what replaces it is something vast, something ancient, something that simply is. The tendril touches the comms unit, and a wave of pure, unadulterated knowledge floods my mind. I see galaxies born and die, stars collapse into singularity, civilizations rise and civilizations fall like transient sparks. I see the vast interconnected network of consciousness that spans the cosmos, and I realize we were never alone. We were always part of something bigger, something terrible, something divine. The tendril then reaches for me. I close my eyes not in fear, but in acceptance. The whispers crescendo, forming a final harmonious chorus. My reality dissolves, not with a bang, but with a silent, profound understanding. I am not dying. I am simply becoming part of the vast, indifferent tapestry of the cosmos, becoming one with the things that sing in the dark, and the silence that follows, the true silence, is the most terrifying sound of all.